Person will show.
Good, okay. Let me see.
We don't have a quorum yet, so.
We might with Zoom.
With Zoom,
up
we
there.
technically do.
Oh, good.
Anybody,
There.
is Linda?
I
Around.
believe Linda can't make today.
Oh,
I think she's away in New
Yeah.
Jersey somewhere.
Roberto's on the meeting.
Yes. Roberto, our secret member, is on
Stealth
the
member.
meeting today too.
well, we might as well get started.
Let's do it.
You get
Okay.
you get to read the speech.
Um, Okay, I'm Phil Smith. I'm the Vice Chair of the Harbor Plan Update Committee. And Linda Williams is not present, so I'm filling in for her. We are using Zoom for this meeting, which allows for the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. The chair can request that members of the public provide their names for purposes of keeping accurate minutes of the meeting. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can click the raise hand button if they wish to speak. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. All questions should be directed through the chair. As a preliminary matter, I've already introduced myself. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So let's just do a roll call of the members. Let me get. Okay. Steve,
Present.
Samantha,
Present.
who else do we have here? Let's see. I'm trying to see who else is a member of the committee. Is Seth?
Present.
Okay, so are you present?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, am I missing anybody who is on the committee?
Emily, is she there?
He
She's
was
not.
supposed to be on Zoom. He was going to be.
Okay,
Hi, Sarah. This is Jesse.
okay, hi, Jesse. You were present,
Message.
I
I'm
think.
present.
Okay,
And Roberto is also on.
okay, now is Roberto,
She's not.
is he a member of this
I don't
committee?
think he's a committee member.
So I guess the question is, do we have a quorum?
So we've got
We got-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of what, 9? I think. That's a quorum. That's a quorum.
Okay,
I think there's 9, right?
yeah, and Peter Brace is not here.
Okay. He's in Maine.
Is Dave on there?
Emily, are you on there?
No,
Dave,
Emily.
he's at a wedding in Maine. Dave Franzuto?
No, Dave.
We got 5. How much is a quorum?
Good, we're good with that.
Okay,
That's what I thought.
we have 5 members, and I guess should we ask the staff members to just tell us that they're present? Jeff,
Here.
Jeff Carlson. Tara, I see you.
Here.
Who else do we have here? Kimberly, I see you.
Here.
Do we have Kristen?
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Okay. And who else do we have?
Zach from West Group
Here.
Okay,
and Steve McKenna from Coastal Zone Management. Here.
okay,
And we have Alan, our intern at UHI with us as well.
okay.
Here as well.
Do we have any, I think we have some guests here. You want to identify yourselves?
Yeah, Matt Heffenreffer,
Okay, and you are representing anything or?
just a member of the public. I talked at a prior meeting about some of the Matticat Harbor questions and spoke with a few of the members and they asked me to join today.
Okay,
I'm Bruce Mandel.
and you are representing,
I am a board member of the Matticat Conservation Association. I'm president of the Mattocket Area Plan Advisory Group. And I'm here to talk about the boundary for the Mattocket Harbor Action Plan.
Okay. Okay, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference or in person. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Meeting guidelines. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, Phil Smith, Vice Chair of the committee and chair for this meeting, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Let me just make sure we've got Jesse, Steve, Samantha, Seth, and myself, and that was 5.
And
Okay,
Roberto.
Okay, now, Roberto's not a member of this committee, is he?
No, he is. He was put on late as our environmental justice community member.
Okay, so Roberto, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, welcome to the committee, Roberto. We
I'm
meet
sorry?
every 2 weeks, so plan accordingly.
Emily's here now too.
We have Emily?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hi, Emily. Okay, so we've got 7 people now. Okay. Doing better. Okay, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom or in person. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay, the first item on the agenda is a welcome. Jeff and Tara, do you have anything you want to start with?
No, I think I'll turn it to Kim. She has got anything?
Sure. Did we want to do you have to do the approval of agenda and minutes first, or should we just jump right in?
Well, why don't we approve the agenda? We
Okay.
don't have minutes to approve. I know Peter is a little backlogged on this. And so,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Seconded.
okay, all in favor, Seth,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Samantha,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Roberto,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, we've accepted the agenda. We will wait till Peter provides us minutes to vote on those. Okay, I guess, Kimberly, why don't you kick it off?
Sure. So I know we have a couple people that have taken the time to join us today. So I wanted to talk about the Mattocket boundary first. So this came up during a public meeting, specifically in Mattocket, by Bruce and some others, where there was concern over the Mattocket boundary and if it includes enough space in the Mattocket area. And so we wanted to, and then I've heard from a number of other people. I've gotten some emails and talked with Matt, who's here, about some other concerns, specifically about the boundary and whether or not it includes everything that we would want to include. So I don't know if Bruce and Matt, if you want to share your perspective on the boundary. I can share a picture of what it is right now in the chat so that people can see. But we wanted to take the time during one of these meetings to revisit that and see if, you know, if we feel good about it, if changes should be made. We also have Steve here, so we can talk a little bit more about what that might mean from the CZM perspective.
Quick question
Yeah.
before we start through you to Kim. If we decide to change the boundary, do we have to go back to the state for approval again? And does that change our acceptance, our notice of acceptance, or whatever that was called?
Steve, do you want to share?
Sure. There's really no clear answer to that. We've modified some other plans, the planning area. I think if it's done midstream, if it's modest, I don't think that would require submittal of a new notice and be published and all that. It would depend, I think, on the scope and the scale of the change. And we can, you know, once you guys decide on that, we'd look at it over internally and probably make that decision.
Thank you.
For people who may not be aware, this committee reviewed the boundaries from the 2009 plan. We expanded them. We voted on them. It was part of the package that we sent to the state, which came back approved. So what I'm hearing is that the folks in Mattocket want us to reconsider what we approved, and obviously, I guess, to expand what we included. Bruce, do you want to say anything about this?
Yes, sir. I'm Bruce Mandel. I'm a board member of the Mattocket Conservation Association. I'm also president of the Mattocket Area Plan Advisory Work Group. We work very diligently and actively to protect our 7 sub-watersheds and the areas feeding them. This includes areas in our 11 communities in Mattocket. And these are outlined in the Horsley, Witten, Hegman, various watershed-related maps that indicate potential contaminant flow into the harbor, Long Pond, the Mattocket Ditch, Heather Creek, and the harbor. Now, what we're proposing to you as an amended eastern boundary, we think is an important consideration as we try to synchronize several descriptions and boundaries of those environmental elements that are used by various town and state entities. And what we're trying to do is synchronize all of these boundaries so then when we're talking about them, the various town entities are using the same boundary. And right now they pretty much all sync up except for the eastern boundary proposed here. So what we're proposing is that you folks consider synchronizing the action plan boundary with these other boundaries. The Board of Health, the Nantucket Land and Water Council, the Watershed Protection District, and others are using this boundary that we're suggesting to you. And as long as we're already amending the boundary, we would like you to consider what we want you to review. And I looked at the notice to proceed, and of course, you're allowed to amend the boundary, but yes, it could set you back a month or 2 or 3 if you're going to revise what they've already changed. So I had sent out a package to Jeff that included 7 exhibits, and I don't know if that got distributed. I hope it did. But what we're suggesting makes hydrologic and scientific sense. We think if we address the various aspects of the harbor watersheds, there are 7 sub-water districts. The Department of Health uses a boundary for the regulation 5301. which we think should be synced with this. The coastal resilience plan and the town administration. We think Long Pond and its surrounding area are vital components of the Mattocket Harbor watershed. Long Pond feeds directly into Mattocket Harbor through the Mattocket Ditch, through Hither Creek. And it's important that we think it should be included in that boundary. Now, as I said, I submitted 7 very detailed exhibits for the committee. And I'm hoping you had a chance to look at them. But what we want to take the time to do is review these with you folks. And
Well, I have, just excuse me, but I have not seen anything.
well, maybe it's important that you let me go through it and then consider it after you.
Well, we have, you know, we haven't, this is an hour meeting, so we don't, I think what we want to do is, members of the committee want to see what we approved and what you're suggesting and see the difference in the lines.
That's
And-
fine, but where's the count? This is the Mattocket Harbor Watershed Protection Area. And the town has actually come up with Mattocket Harbor Watershed Protection District that matches that, and it's a little bit different than your eastern boundary. The town also has in the estuary plan outlined the 7 subwater districts, and you can see in the yellow coloring here, it matches what we're proposing. And just to go on and on, the Horsley, Witten, Hegman maps, and they produced a number of maps at the time for what was at the time called the Nantucket Land Council. But even their map shows all of this area, potential contaminants and whatnot, flowing toward the harbor. And the proposed districts that change that we are considering or asking you to consider would consider this area here, that's Mattocket.
Okay, what I think we can do is if you could provide to the committee an overlay on what we approved and what you're asking us to consider before our next meeting.
I will resubmit all the
Well,
documents.
we don't need all the documents. We want to see where the new boundary is.
Yes,
Okay, that's what we're gonna vote on. We're not gonna
Okay.
vote on a whole bunch of exhibits. We're gonna vote on where the new boundary is.
I will provide that
Okay.
to you.
Okay,
Yes.
members of the committee, any comment?
Through you, Mr. Chair, has your local area plan boundary been accepted by the NP and EDC yet?
We're in the process of submitting that. The NPEDC will only review 2 area plans at a
I
time.
know I was on the Monomoy area
Okay,
plan.
so we're what you call on deck. Now, we
Good
met
luck.
with them when we created the committee. And they approved the members of our
Right,
committee.
yeah,
We submitted this boundary
okay,
for
so
them.
they haven't,
They've got it, they've
Right.
discussed it, but it hasn't been officially discussed because we're on deck.
I understand.
Matt, do you have anything to say?
Sure, so I joined the Mattocket boundary, joined this discussion because of Bruce sharing that information and my thought is that I think there's benefit to having aligned boundaries across different plans and groups. Never tends to be a good time to make those changes, but if now is the right time, losing some modest amount of time seems worthwhile. Without knowing your group and exactly how this procedurally plays out over the duration of this plan. I think my request would be to understand if this is a good boundary change to make it, and if there's reasons why, if you don't want it, just to hash that out and understand it, because I feel like this is the type of thing where 5 years later, 10 years later, someone says, well, why didn't we do that then? And if there's a strategic reason, that'd be great, but I just want to understand the decision process.
Stephen?
through you to Steve McKenna, if their new suggested boundary has a significant portion of land on it east of Long Pond or that area, is that does that fall under our purview?
You know, it certainly can. There's no, it's up to the community to decide what the planning area is. You know, usually the planning area relates back to sort of the rationale for the, that you included in the notice to proceed, in the notice, the request for notice to proceed, kind of the justification, what are you trying to address in the plan? So if it relates to that, that certainly makes sense.
I'll resubmit that.
Okay,
Go
other
ahead.
members of the committee, any comments or questions?
Looks like Emily has her hand raised.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'm definitely interested in having this discussion. I really appreciate about the boundary. It's pretty clear that from a hydrologic and watershed perspective, this area has a big impact on some elements of the harbor plan. And so I think that it should definitely be considered if there are concerns or reasons why we wouldn't want to include such a large land area. I think that there should be an opportunity to address, I guess, what the most relevant elements of that area are as far as how they contribute ultimately to the harbor plan and the recommendations that we make. So if there's a way to incorporate water quality impacts from this part of the watershed without necessarily including the entire area, or does it make sense to just include the entire area? I'm not necessarily opposed to taking a little bit more time if it is the best option to align, you know, with what has been done elsewhere. But I do think that we should find a way to account for direct connection to the watershed that this area has on Mattocket Harbor within the plan in one way or another. Thanks.
Anyone else on the committee?
Seth's got his hand up.
Seth? Go ahead, Seth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Mandel, for your submission. So we have the ability within our harbor plan to include any number of recommendations that focus on items that are outside of the planning boundary itself. For instance, in the 2009 plan, there was a whole slew of implemented suggestions on education, on outreach, on research. These happen across the whole island, the watersheds, the harbors, everywhere, without specifically being in the harbor planning boundary. So we have the ability, without amending the boundary, to say things like it is important to protect Long Pond, to do more research on water quality in Long Pond, to take steps to prevent nutrient pollution in Long Pond. We have all of the ability to do that without amending the harbor plan boundary. I think just for clarity's sake, it would make sense not to amend the boundary, because really the harbor plan is about the harbors itself. And although I agree scientifically that Long Pond is tidally influenced and connected through the Mattocket Ditch to Hither Creek and ultimately Mattocket Harbor, that connection is 400 years old and ultimately will be improved probably within this 10-year planning cycle. So when those types of activities in the Coastal Resiliency Plan take place and potentially Long Pond becomes much more estuarine or much more harbor-esque than in the 2033 plan, it might make sense to include that in the planning boundary. But right now, I think it's not germane to pick up the entire Long Pond area and all that land in Mattocket, because it's not specifically different than land, in Mid-Island or Cliff or anywhere. These impacts are going to like strategies such as reducing runoff and having better fertilizer regulations or whatever the strategies are going to be the same in the area based around Long Pond versus the rest of the island. So I think for clarity's sake, we should restrict the planning boundary really to the harbor areas themselves, but we should certainly include suggestions that are gonna better the outcomes for water bodies feeding into those harbors. It's not the watershed update committee, it's the harbor plan update committee. Thank you.
Any other comments from committee members? Roberta,
Yes, I would like to echo everything Seth just said. Yes, we do have a big watershed that was set by Horsley, Witten and Hegeman, what, 33, 34 years ago. We have been advocating at the Board of Health level for quite some time now, and we're working on it to update those maps because the technology has significantly changed since 1989. So I agree with Seth while we update the harbor watershed information.
hearing no other requests to comment from the members, are there any people on the staff that want to make a comment? Jeff?
Sure, I mean, I'm never shy of words, so I agree with Roberto and Seth both. I think there's always, you know, different scopes that we're looking at for what activities we're looking to encourage and help put action items together. I understand. I mean, I think I look at it as expanding out to the whole watershed. One, I think we would have to do it for both harbors. If we did it for one, we'd have to do it for both. But I think that's drifting a little bit outside of what the harbor plan's purpose is. It's not a watershed management tool. It's a harbor management tool related to the uses and public uses in and around the harbor. And while I agree they're totally connected, it doesn't necessarily mean that their planning boundaries will always overlap perfectly. It does make sense to some degree, but I also think with Manigat ditch is included, right? In the planning boundary that we
Yeah, we
have.
did pick up the Medicaid ditch
Yep.
in that part of.
So
Long Pond.
that connection is picked up, but knowing what it's used for and informing chapter 91 process, and also, you know, relevant zoning things, backing up the whole way and then looking at it. I mean, we'd be in effect, and I apologize for pointing at the screen, but we would be out into this area in here for putting management recommendations for how we're utilizing the harbor.
Just past the landfill, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that it's drifting outside of scope. I think there are plenty of there's the town water quality plan. There are other plans that contemplate water quality measures other than this one. This one supplements that and ties in. But I think the planning boundary that's there is very solid for what the scope of the plan is set out to be.
Okay, I repeat, Bruce, if you can provide the committee, and I guess through Jeff. Or,
I think,
but I mean, just, you know,
I'll refine.
let's see, I don't want to see all your exhibits. I want to see one page
Yes.
with what the new eastern boundary is.
Okay.
And we will discuss it at our next meeting. But I think you guys understand that there's another side to this.
Yes, we understand resubmitting it and the delay of that process and some of the other considerations you've made. So I'll provide a one pager and you meet every 2 weeks. So I would plan on attending to review that with you.
But I think if we have something that's clear and we see what the new eastern boundary is, you know, and you know, we'll take a vote.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
a quick note, and just something to check with Steve and Kristen about. Assuming if we did not change that boundary, if we had, you know, if the community came to us and said, we have these specific recommendations that we would like to make for this area, that's not included in the boundary, that's still something that we can include in the plan, correct? So, you know, if they're coming to us with big concerns that are just at the edge of the boundary, is there any limitation to including that?
No, from our perspective, no, not at all. And like I said, if it was significant enough that we felt it should be noticed, just let the public know that the planning area has changed since the notice to proceed. You know, that'd be more of a procedural thing. We would notice it in the monitor for 30 days, take public comments, but I wouldn't foresee that slowing down any progress of the committee. That would just be, you know, kind of a formality. So it's really in your hands what the committee wants to do.
Yeah, and I would just add, I know it's called a planning boundary, but we should really think about it as a planning area and just understand that what we're trying to accomplish in this plan is to address the things that have been identified as or will be identified as priorities within the planning area, and then figure out how to, you know, either capitalize on opportunities or address needs. And I think Seth pointed out in the earlier plan that there's no reason why we can't make recommendations outside of the planning area that would have an impact in the planning area. So we're definitely, you know, regardless of where the boundary lies, I think it's safe to assume that issues of water quality and the watersheds will be incorporated into the plan.
And one other point, obviously, you know, if a plan's approved for 10-year period, it can certainly be amended during that time frame. If there was one piece or an issue that you wanted to address, that's a fairly simple procedure. Again, it gets noticed, there's public comment taken. So it's not something that, you know, if you foresee addressing something down the road during the 10-year period, that certainly is an option as well for the town.
I would like Linda Williams and Peter Brace to also be involved in this discussion before we take the vote. So hopefully we can ensure that they're at the next meeting so that all of the members of the committee will have been aware of what we're considering. Okay?
Dave as well.
Okay, is that, can we move on?
Can I make one
Sure.
comment on that? So I think that makes sense in terms of it's not limiting and it doesn't prevent you from doing anything. If your goal is to decrease nutrient load in the harbor and some of it comes from Long Pond, you can certainly do that. The only thing I would ask is if whether things are included within the planning boundary or area, whatever you want to call it, if that changes the likelihood that it gets addressed. If it's easier to address it because it's within it versus outside, and I'll leave that to you guys. That's just
Okay.
the way I look at the
Well,
question.
we have the whole thing on the other side of the island. So I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know,
Of course.
so we it's not just Madigan.
Well, that gets down, and then that gets down to what happens after this whole plan is done and accepted becomes implementation, which they did after the last one. They had an implementation committee to follow up on the recommendations.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we are now on item number 3. We have discussed the Manicat boundary, so I think we can move on from that. So number 3, Steve, you want to?
Yeah, and I was kind of hoping Peter would be here for this one, since he's now the head of the Coastal Resilience Committee. I'm aware, and I guess probably everybody else is aware, that they're talking about creating coastal resilience districts. And these districts, once they are created, I believe, and I don't have enough information, that's why I brought it up, was to try and get more information, will be, you know, within the boundaries of our plan right now. So what are these districts? What do they hope to accomplish, and how will that affect what we're trying to do? And, you know, are we working together or working at cross purposes? So maybe, I know Vince is the one who's kind of spearheading this. Would it be worth having Vince come in, Jeff, do you think, to explain what
I
the whole
think,
thought process is and what's going on, or do you know enough, or?
I probably know enough to be dangerous in this discussion, but I think the bigger question for coastal resiliency districts, I think it's probably better for a greater discussion next time as well. The select board is reviewing the principles on coastal resiliency districts that CRAC developed at their next meeting on the 4th of October.
Okay.
So I think once that discussion's had and they potentially make decisions on how they would like to view that setup and how that may be pursued, that would probably make more sense time-wise for folks than to talk about it now, let it go to the select board, have it potentially radically change, and then have to talk about it again. So I think that would be there, but really in really general terms, just for people that haven't been involved yet. Coastal resiliency districts are being set up because what we're seeing island-wide is varying needs for coastline adaptation and potential management there, whether it's, you know, something similar where we're looking at relocation of Baxter Road or potential protection of Baxter Road, relocation of something like Sheep Pond Road. Obviously, you know, some sort of protection or future plan for like Matticat Road and Ames Avenue for how to get to Millie's Bridge. There are all of these little pockets that are there, and how we as a town group those up for everything from potential, you know, funding options and how that gets funded, whether it gets through some sort of, you know, betterment or more localized option, depending on what it is, how that gets distributed across the tax base. I think that's what they're trying to do, is set up a structure that people can understand better for how living in certain areas that have resiliency needs may affect that neighborhood over time. And then also hopefully, you know, use that as a bit of an engagement piece to have a more focused dialogue with those neighborhood groups to say, what are you guys willing to see here? What are you guys willing to do participation wise? So instead of doing it on the fly, we can try to be a little bit more prepared in advance. But like I said, that's all very conceptual right now for what that is. And until the select board decides exactly how they want to try to structure that and pilot that off, I think there's going to be a few questions, but we can certainly add it on for the next meeting.
So we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah,
We'll
I
have a
just
little bit
wanted to
more
raise-
information.
I just wanted to raise
Yeah.
the topic
Okay.
and get it in the discussion pipeline somewhere.
Okay,
But I'm sure I could get Vince to come review.
okay. Okay, Steve is,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Okay, next item, Woods Hole Group online mapping. Kim, I see your name here.
Yes. Great. So as I believe most of you know, we do have this new online mapping tool from Woods Hole that's really cool, easy to use. It just went live about 2 weeks ago, and it's another way for people to provide comments. And they can provide comments on specific areas within Nantucket and Matticat harbors. At this point, we don't have very many responses, so we just wanted to remind you all to send the link out to your groups and have people respond. A cool thing, you know, is so if you sign in, you can actually see other people's comments. You can't delete their comments, but you can see other people's comments. So that might create some sort of discussion, which is interesting. At this point, I don't know. Also, I mean, we've done a lot of engagement here, so I don't know if people already feel like they've provided their input and aren't interested in participating. Another way that we can use the tool, other than, you know, continuing to send it out right now, is once we have the draft plan, that also might be another good time to send that out and have people go in and make additional comments. So I guess mostly the point of that was just to remind people it's there, to continue sending it out, put it up on Facebook, put it up, you know, on wherever people go to. And then, you know, we can continue to use it once the draft plan is live and we open up a whole nother series of public engagement. That will probably be another good time to really make a push for that.
Hey, Kim, I'm help me out here. I mean, we have the boundaries.
Yes.
We've talked about the boundaries. We're still talking about the boundaries. How does this tie in with that?
So I can bring up the tool. So the boundaries are displayed on the tool, and people can go in and see what the boundary looks like, and then they can go in and make comments. So let me bring up the current tool. So basically all the areas that aren't gray, those are in our planning and areas. And these dots are all comments. So people can make a comment outside of the boundary. And obviously we'll look at it and treat it as any other comment. But basically, people can go in and make a comment about something that, basically say, what category does your concern fall under? So they can say fishing, boating, water quality. Then there's a question, what do you suggest is done to address the concern? And then have people provide any additional details about their concern. So yeah, generally it's just kind of a way to provide a area specific comment if people really want to highlight something. And Dak, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add on it.
Actually, if you click that pink point, that is a real point that someone's added. So it has several of those options already filled out.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a small amount of concern if people's responses were being recorded, but we did some tests here and other tests remotely that points that are placed are seen by anyone, no matter where they're placed from. So I think we were hoping to have, greater usage of the tool at this point. I think Kim is absolutely correct that we should remind folks that this tool exists once the draft plan exists. But no, I think it's just a matter of either people feel that they have voiced their opinions already, or they don't know about it, this tool, which is why greater dissemination would really be effective.
Well, I think the point is that we have been trying to vacuum up every possible comment on all these different 8 or 10 categories for the last 2 or 3 months. So now I guess what we have is we have a map. If somebody wants to make yet another comment that uses the map, is that correct?
Essentially, yes.
So we have an awful lot of comments already. Maybe the map is helpful, maybe it's not, but because people aren't using the map doesn't mean they're not interested. It's just, I think it's just that they've already made their comments.
Yeah, and I hope that's.
I know it's not how it's intended, but I actually think the map is a significantly stronger education tool than a feedback gathering tool. I think, yes, we're not getting a ton on it right now, but we have had so many forums, we have collected so many comments. I think if we were to use it in the inverse by putting what we've learned onto the map to then educate people, I actually think that's a really strong use. I know it's the inverse of its intention,
we can do that. We can do that, but I wouldn't. I think that because people have not availed themselves of this new tool doesn't mean that we don't have an awful lot of information already.
And we don't really know that much about using this tool. It's pretty new on how to access it.
Well, it's it's a tool and it's available, but
we just need to know how to access it. I think we'll find it.
I think there's a link on it from the the Harbor Committee page on the town website.
It's pretty new.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
we'll keep playing with it, but I'm not concerned that people haven't. I think we've gotten so much feedback.
Yeah. And I agree that that's an interesting idea to kind of flip it and, for us to also use it as a way to educate people and to share with them what we've heard in different areas. One thing that's particularly cool, kind of like that point that we just brought up, is people can zoom into the exact area where they want to add public access and say, this is where I want it, versus trying to, guess the area or try to, identify in a different way. This is a good way to kind of zoom in on that. So yeah, there are probably a few different uses that we could utilize this for.
for our Matticat friends, our initial meeting at Nantucket Hotel, I was at the table where it had to do with public access, and there were a lot of Matticat people there, and they were talking about, stuff in real detail. I mean, it was, sort of beyond the purpose of the session, but this is where if you guys, have something you want to say about the intersection of Jefferson and Tennessee or whatever, have at it.
Yeah, we tend to have a lot of detail behind what we're saying.
Well, this would be a way,
This may be a good.
you can get good at, you can figure this out and get good at it, and
There you go.
well, all of the little dots will be on the left-hand side.
Does your association do a newsletter?
Yes.
So you could send a link, you
We
could add
do
this,
that. It comes out every quarter.
so you could send a little
We'll put
blurb
it there.
in your
Yeah.
newsletter.
the
link
link
and
and
they-
we'll publish it in the Matica Matters
Yeah.
that we. sent.
Okay, because that would actually be helpful to us, because I had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, and
Their mooring placed here instead of here.
Higher in the line on the wait list.
There was Jefferson in Tennessee that was a hot button or something. I don't know, but
Yes.
yeah, and Bruce, I have your email address. I'll send you the link directly. But otherwise, honestly, I don't think it's up on the Nantucket website yet, since it is so new, but those are things we need to start doing.
Well, I look forward to getting the link. Thank
you
you.
will be,
We're gonna give you your.
you'll
own-
be
We're
occupied.
gonna give
Bruce.
you your own color, so you
Yeah.
know what to do.
Next question.
Yes.
So I'm somewhat informed on the topic and I'm a above average user of tools and technology. And I have it open on my desktop at home. I'm not quite sure. So a million things I could write down. What is helpful? Like how can people, the public using this tool be most helpful? That's why I didn't put in anything. I don't
Good
wanna
question.
record
I think
ideas.
Kristen and Kimberly, you can jump in on this one, I guess.
I mean, I think it's most helpful to when there's something, assuming if you've provided comments through the public survey or other ways. I think it's most helpful really for identifying very location specific comments, things that are very particular to an area of the map. You obviously can add other comments too, wherever. If you say, I want more education, you can put that dot anywhere and we'll still consider it. But I see it as both being most useful really for that, like very location specific, like, oh, there's a big water quality issue in this exact area, or there used to be eelgrass right here and there isn't anymore. And obviously, some of those things can span more of an area than that dot, but it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at. And Kristen, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think that's exactly right. This is really just another way of gathering information. And I don't know, Dak, you've used this in other communities. Has there been a way that other people are thinking about it that's particularly useful?
No, I think Kim hit it right on the head, on the nail on the head right there, is that
Put a dot
in
somewhere on Francis Street and say, I want a boat ramp here.
We do that right now.
it's most helpful
Bruce, you
for
don't
places
need to-
where you can't describe words. There it is. Dropping a point is the most helpful thing to do.
Well, it's not
Consecutive dots.
Okay,
This is where the
There's no
boundary
lines
should be.
going.
This is where the boundary should be. This is.
okay, I think we're good.
Thank you.
The next item, online public meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to give everybody a chance to, because we haven't had a meeting since our online public meeting, just to regroup on that. I think it seemed well attended. Took a little bit to get the conversation going. Thankfully, Matt helped us out with that. But I think we got some good comments. I think it did include a different group of people. So generally, I found it to be successful. I don't know if anybody had any questions or comments. I think we had maybe 60 or so people at the meeting.
I think that was our peak, was right around 60.
Yep.
60.
Yep.
I was not able to be on that call. Kimberly, were there any things that you heard for the first time?
Not
Oh, the walkway contingency was very strong.
Harbor Walk.
Harbor Walk, and we,
Mm.
all of the other forums, Harbor Walk was not nearly as strong of a talking point. I was a little fascinated by that. I love the idea, but they were very organized. There were a lot of really good points, and that's one that had not been discussed at length before.
Okay,
There we go. I don't think the town can afford that Harbor Walk.
okay.
I appreciated it.
Anything else on the open public meeting?
I would say a public resource like that may not all.
I think the fact that we had 60 people is notable because that's almost, that would almost be equal to, well, no,
So
Manica, you
we've
guys.
had over
Manica
200,
is probably
over
50.
200.
Yeah,
people,
50.
The forum, 250, some.
Yeah, I'd say in-person respondents, we probably had somewhere between 150 and 200 people, because there were some duplicates from meeting to meeting.
Right.
But somewhere in there, plus, what did you say, Kim, the other day, we were around 500 responses on the online?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have, so the survey, the online survey is now closed and we have, it looks like about 537 responses. So I think that tops all of our other online survey engagements, which is what we were going for. So good job, everybody, with spreading the word.
How did we do relative to Mashpee and this Ipswich?
We beat Ipswich and Mashpee. Is Mashpee open right now, Kristen? No, we haven't opened it, but I think we'll beat everyone. But really, I mean, we really did have a really, really good, robust public engagement process, and we have a lot of comments to be going through. And that was going to say, just in the next point is, now that we have all of the survey responses, we'll be over on our side going through comments, coming up with graphs, seeing what people really found to be important. So that's really our next step.
Kimberly, Jeff, do you want to take us to the next thing as the next steps? What should we be doing?
I think Emily has a comment first.
Oh yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, speaking of the survey, I don't actually know how much it was advertised, but we do have a Hollover gift card. If we want to raffle that off to one of the survey participants, I can get that to whoever needs it, and we can do that.
Yeah, that's great. Jeff, did we decide that was allowed, that we could do that?
Yes.
Great. I will randomly select someone. Is it just one person, or okay? I'll randomly select someone. Thank you. Okay, Jesse?
Yeah, this is kind of random, but since someone brought up the Harbor Walk, and I know it's come up a couple times in the public information sessions, I guess I would love to know more about I guess the community's general understanding of what that idea means. Like, does that mean a walkway that is connected, like a public on land on the edge of the water, or does that mean, like on piers or piles, some sort of, boardwalk structure? I mean, I feel like I hear general support now and then for a quote unquote harbor walk, but I don't know what that is, what in everybody's mind that looks like. And so I just throw that out there as something for all of us to think about. And I don't know if there's a way to actually, discover that, but anyway.
I think that's a great comment, Jesse, because I have the same question. I mean, and you got the steamship right in the middle of it. And so, and then you have, all of the properties at the boat basin. I mean, I'm just not quite sure how that would, from a practical point of view, work out in a perfect, the ideal situation.
I mean, I think there's more possibility from like the Creeks Preserve, to the downtown, through sort of from connecting from Mid Island to the downtown. But yeah, I guess I just
Easton Street would be tough.
Yeah.
There were a lot of references in the online forum to Boston's version, which is quite literally on wharfs in front of condo buildings. Like,
Right.
It's very much a public space, and it's not feasible in so many locations here. I like the idea, but realistically.
St. John's has a nice one. Walk along the beach.
Aspirational more than exact.
I think
but
that's
that's
a big part of it.
Like,
I think Jesse's right.
Where
There's
there
a
are
land bank
things-
on so much of that property. There's a shot to do
places where
that.
it's appropriate, I think it's definitely a great thing to explore, but
Okay.
Well,
Just
chapter
move it to Mannequin Park.
We could do it in Mannequin. How do you
Yeah.
feel about that?
Absolutely. They've already done one, a very good one, Jesse, and
But
land
there
bank
are examples too.
in Matticat that's enjoyed quite a bit. People are walking on the boardwalk out over to the, great, Long Pond, and there's a platform and whatnot. St. John's has a wonderful walkway where you walk along the beach and it tells you you're at this point out there, 50 yards is this, that, or the other thing. It's very informative. So there's lots of different ways to do it.
I'll volunteer to do the field research on that one.
Go to St. John's, do it.
I'll leave that sacrifice trip.
December trip.
Okay, so I guess, Kimberly and Kristen, we are now at the point where we have all of our feedback and comments, and we now, as a committee, need to start sorting through that. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, we have a lot of comments. We'll do our part over here to consolidate and to pull them all together. And then we'll start coming back to you guys, likely at the next meeting, with some big things that we've heard, and start thinking about moving forward with, you know, already we've been drafting background sections and all of that, but really start thinking about recommendations moving forward.
Would it make,
Yep.
would it make sense to do this feedback in the categories that of the tables, the things that we had, so that they're just not all random, all thrown together? We had, remember with our thing at Nantucket Hotel and Great Harbor, we had tables where we had specific topics.
Yeah, I think so. I think putting them into the different categories is going to be helpful, and then start to really identify what rose up to the top, what are the big things that we want to address, and what are the big things that you guys want to address. And another note on here is just continuing with interviews. I know we've interviewed a number of you guys, and if you haven't been interviewed yet, you will be shortly. So that'll be another time for you guys to share what you have in mind.
I had a question about the interviews. How many interviews have you guys conducted so far? Because I know we all contributed to that list of outside people, not committee members, but stakeholders, so to speak, and other members of the community that are directly involved through commerce or something else with the waterfront.
Good question.
Is that ongoing?
It is, it's ongoing. I think we've done maybe 15 or so, Kristen and Jack, 15 to 20. Are you looking?
Yeah, that sounds right. I am looking at the list. One. I'd
We've
have to
been
look
doing
at
like
each.
a couple interviews a week.
Yeah.
Has anyone turned you down?
No, no one has. Some have been a little harder to get in touch with than others. But with persistence, tracked them down.
Okay. Just wrapping up, I guess a piece of new information from our last meeting, because we were talking about the fact that as of the end of this month, we will not have a ship chandlery. And if you believe what you read in the local press, it sounds like there is I don't know how firm an agreement it is, where the Anglers Club is buying the property of what is Tidal Creek / Grand Point Marine, and that a chandlery would be part of that. Steve, do you know anything about this?
According to the paper, the deal's closed. The Anglers Club now owns the building. They don't intend, we've got 3 more years on our current lease where we are in town. NIR, and this is from a newsletter from the Anglers Club that they sent out to the members. NIR has agreed to extend that another 5 years. So the thought is it's going to take a certain amount of time for the Anglers Club to reconfigure that property and figure out what kind of modifications, renovations and whatnot it's going to take to make it into a club because it's a residence upstairs now. And that they do, intend to lease it out to someone to run as a chandlery, but I've not heard an identified person that's gonna open a chandlery there. So I don't know. I think that would be ideal. Maybe Rick will take it over again. Who knows? He might be in Costa Rica too much. I don't know. But I guess that's their intent. If they can find someone who's willing to.
They just bought it.
Yeah, so they just closed out.
They're
They just
probably
closed
trying
out
to figure
last
out what
week.
they're doing.
Okay.
They may have a deal with no. Rick may have said, okay, I'll take it back over. Mike fixed it all up. It's in good shape now. So
Well, we talked about it at our last meeting, a community sailing, the board meeting, and everybody was really concerned.
yeah,
I mean, so I think there's a very broad feeling that
yeah.
there needs to be something.
It's a tough business, as everyone knows, because of the online presences and things like that. And a lot of the boats that come over here already have a lot of their own supplies. I guess from a practical standpoint, is somebody willing to go in there and spend the money and effort to open up a brand new business, knowing that it's going to sunset?
Well,
Yeah.
I would say is our role as the committee is we should look for ways to incentivize those marine support businesses not to be at a fixed location that we know now, but to find ways
Exactly.
to incentivize those to exist in spots that.
And they don't have to be on the water, obviously. You know, so many of the marine supplies that are sold now are to people with boats on moorings and things like that. So they don't need to be next to the town pier. It's convenient for the people on the town pier and the boat basin, but if they were mid-island somewhere, people would still find a way to get there.
There's no ship change.
There's.
We have commercial zone.
There's no like drive.
There's an opportunity for Chris to expand his shop there. Well,
Exactly.
go talk to Shane. He's always receptive to a new idea.
Being mindful of time, can I make an administrative note? Our recurring event invite on our calendars is for every other Monday. At one point, we had discussed meeting on the first and third Monday. When you look at the month of October, that leaves us with 3 meetings in October, and then it pushes us off balance for November and December. And as we're all about to go into the holidays and whatnot, I would love to have our calendar for the rest of the year neat and clean.
Yes. What would everyone like to do? Would we like to stick with just generally Monday, Wednesday, and then I'll move that one at the end of October back to the next Monday, so then we'd go 2 or 3 weeks without meeting?
We would meet 2, 16, and then wait until 6 and 20.
Yeah.
And then 4 and 18, because if we get off kilter in October, then it messes with the whole rest of the year. And I'm not meeting with you guys on Christmas, even though I do like you all.
When's the next October meeting? Because you
I
want
love
some
that meeting for
information.
Christmas, be grayed out.
Yeah,
Theoretically,
that
or
works.
Monday the
Push that
16th,
stuff through.
that one.
So Kimberly, is our next meeting Monday, the 16th?
At 1, yes. And just a note, Kristen and I are going to be there in person. We're going to meet with Tara and with Jesse. Let us know if there's anyone else that wants to meet or show us anything, or anything else important for us to do. I'm also thinking of Roberto. We'd love to talk to you at some point, so might be able to find some time there. But we'll be there for the day. And
We intend to be there to meet their request for the documentation for Matica.
Okay,
Just to be clear, the 16th will be the last meeting in October.
And then we would wait
Yes.
and on
Then
Monday the
then
6th.
November 6th.
Yeah.
and then November 6th, okay, 1 o'clock on both, right?
Yep,
And
Okay.
then the
the
20th.
20th,
Okay.
and then December 4th. And December 18th.
Got it.
Okay, did everybody get that? December 4th and December
18.
18th?
6th of November is right before the AGM.
and I believe I just updated your meeting calendar.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else members would like to bring up? Hearing none, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Proposed by Stephen, seconded by Samantha. Jesse,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Roberto,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and the chair says aye, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
1 hour.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.